Good morning and welcome to the session on Sencha Advisory Services Insights, uh, introduced recently by Sencha in partnership with Celestial Systems. In panel today, I'm joined by Jason Klein. He's the CTO at Celestial System and a former director of engineering at Sencha. Along with him, I have Rahul Raina. He's the VP of Business Development at Celestial Systems and responsible for global sales and go-to-market strategies. He has extensive experience in working with large global enterprise customers using Sencha EXTGS framework. Myself, Sachin, I'm the VP of Alliances and Marketing at Celestial, responsible for partner alliances and joint go-to-marketing and marketing initiatives. Sencha is a true global standard when it comes to enterprise-grade JavaScript framework for web apps development. Today's topic explores how customers can greatly benefit with improved decision-making throughout the application development lifecycle by leveraging the advisory services being offered by a pool of experienced Sencha architects and veterans. Gentlemen, welcome. So first and foremost, let's try and understand what the Sencha advisory service is.
So to Sachin's question, what is the Sencha advisory service? Let me give you a little bit of background on how we actually came to this point. So Celestial Systems has been working with Sencha for several years, and we have deep-rooted experience in the Sencha EXTJS framework. Even today, we are currently building new versions of the Sencha EXTJS framework, which are coming out. As part of this deep knowledge that we have in our organization, we jointly with Sencha came up with the advisory service. Now, the main purpose of coming up with the advisory service was to make it very easy for any company out there with one click of a button to come and reach out to Sencha experts today. We know that there are many companies out there who have large-scale mission-critical enterprise applications built, and they need help maintaining, upgrading their existing Sencha applications. So what we've done is we've taken all our services that we currently offer from a Celestial point of view. And these are all the services that are currently listed on the slide here. These are things that we do for our small, medium companies all the way up to Fortune 100 companies. And we've packaged them together, and with one click of a button, we've made them accessible through the Sencha website to anybody who wants to get in contact with us. So in my opinion, what makes the Sencha advisory special and different? I think the biggest advantage, as I've mentioned before, is it makes the access to Sencha resources very seamless and easy. I mentioned one click of a button. That's exactly what I was referring to. Secondly, the way it's the other advantage that we have is we are offering all of our services and not a subset for the Sencha advisory. So, customers can engage with us from a high-level planning phase to a code review to perhaps, tackling on some really critical bugs or issues that they might face. So the bottom line is we are very flexible in the way we can engage. It totally depends on what our customers would like to do.
Thank you for that. Now that we understand what Sencha advisory is, who needs this service?
So when I think of who needs this service, who's quote unquote the ideal customer, in my mind, the ideal customer is not dictated by the size of the company or what vertical they're in. The ideal customer is somebody who's simply built a mission critical application using the Sencha XJS framework, right? And they need some help. Now, whether that help is around planning or doing a code review or solving a really difficult bug, or perhaps, thinking about increasing some functionality or working on some maintenance, that to us is the main, main customer or main prospect that would really derive the most value out of this service. And we know there are people like that out there, and of course, hiring and resourcing is always a challenge. So we just wanted to make that process for them to get in touch with us very easy and very seamless. And that's why we're very thrilled that we've partnered with Sencha for this initiative. And so we're super excited that we'll be able to, bridge the gap and make it very, very easy for any company out there that needs any help with regards to Sencha to get in touch with, Sencha, Celestial, at any time they want. Jason, do you have any comments or do you want to add something to this?
No, that's right. There are so many XJS applications out there in the world that have been performing critical roles inside of organizations, and they're not easy to replace, but they need to be maintained. So XJS versions, applications age, and so XJS versions need to be maintained. You might need performance improvements. You might need security fixes, and making sure that you have a plan for how to maintain your XJS applications over the long haul is very important. And so our architects have not only the experience of doing that work, but also the expertise to provide you with that peace of mind when it comes to building out either new functionality or maintaining the existing functionality that you have, while getting the upgrade feature advantages that you might be able to get from newer versions of XJS.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know how hard it is to, I don't want to use the word legacy, but we know how hard it is to, maintain and migrate large mission critical applications, especially in large enterprises, right? And so I think that's why this service has so much value, where it allows Celestial to do what we're best at, or what is our bread and butter, and it just makes it very easy for us to connect with several different clients, and that's what we're really excited about.
And often a customer will come to us with and as we'll get to a little bit later in the presentation, they'll come to us with a particular critical problem or an urgent need, and we'll be able to help them solve that, not only that problem, but then set them up for many more years of use of that application.
So one last thing I want to add with regards to this, I think this Sencha Advisory service makes it very palpable and easy for customers to engage with us in a short sprint. And I think what really that helps Celestial to do is really establish value very quickly, so that without a lot of commitment, both from a time and financial perspective, the customers can see what value a company like Celestial can bring to the table. And then once we've shown that value, then they can decide how they want to continue to work on with us. We have many, many clients that are very long term. We've been working with them for several years at a time. And that again just goes to show you how long these applications are actually being maintained, in many instances for decades. So that's the last point I wanted to add. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that, Rahul. And I think we have discussed about some of the advantages, but let's summarize for everyone's understanding. What are the key advantages that the services is going to offer?
Yes, absolutely. So I think right off the bat, the biggest advantage, no doubt, is giving people access to the world's best Sencha developers and architects. I think to me that is single-handedly the biggest advantage that we can offer to any company. Now, the further advantages that come from engaging our resources are ones that are directly attributed to the application, right? So that could be improvement in performance, improvement in maintenance, upgrading the application to the latest version, cutting down development time, et cetera, right? So to me, I kind of see the advantages as in two buckets. One, the advantage of having access to a company like Celestial, and secondly, the advantages from using a company like Celestial.
Yeah, so basically you're saying it's A, easier to get the expert, and B, is the service is so extensive that it can support different kind of requirements, and ultimately benefit the challenge that this individual customer is facing, whatever the challenge may be in their business use case.
Absolutely. And I think another advantage I feel that customers will have is, since this program is sponsored and initiated by Sencha, we don't need to worry about any additional legal or paperwork or any time spent on stuff that's not about your mission critical enterprise app. So I think for most clients, for most prospects, that's something that makes it very easy to get started, get up and running. If I look at the way we work today, whenever we engage with with any new company or prospect, there is a legal process that we have to follow. It takes time to do documentation. It takes time to settle on agreements and all those things. We're doing away with all that stuff and basically just getting to the meat and potatoes and saying, hey, you need help with your Sencha app. We're here for you. Let's get started tomorrow.
I think this is very useful. And at this point of time, it will be great if we can take an example or a case study and show, by how this thing came about, where exactly the requirement was, what was the challenge they were facing, and how we, what was our role in that relationship. So maybe that would be this is a good time to pivot into that case study.
So for this example, we would like to reference an existing client that we have today. It's a Fortune 500 energy consortium group that has a very large scale deployment on Sencha. Now, maybe Jason, do you want to add some thoughts on and comments on what we actually did for this customer?
Yeah, that's right. So they came to us thinking that they needed to upgrade their application to the latest version of XJS in order to solve their problem. The problem they were facing was that the theme of the application didn't meet the accessibility guideline requirements of their customer. And so it had problems with contrast, and the theme was too. Some things were too light, other things were too dark. It was really difficult for users with limited vision or limited vision capabilities to use the application. And so they thought that they needed to upgrade the application to the latest version just to be able to make that change. They came to us requesting an application upgrade, which for anyone who's been through a major version upgrade with XJS, that was a very time and energy intensive process. And they really just didn't have, but they were under a time crunch. So their customer needed this feature, this problem solved with the theme within months. And this was a massive application that was going to require much more time than that to do the application upgrade. So we thought we could solve their theme problem without doing the upgrade. But to confirm that, we needed to do a code review. So we assigned one of our Sencha architects to the project and let them get access to the source code, and spent a couple of weeks analyzing and getting an understanding of how the application worked. In this case, they were focusing on the theme of the application. And we did confirm that we could modify the theme in the way that met the customer's needs without modifying the XJS version. But at the same time, we were able to create a roadmap or a plan for them to upgrade their application to the latest version of XJS. So during the code review process, our architect confirmed our initial suspicions that the existing application was correctly using the Sencha theme system in ext4. And because of that, we were able to modify that theme. Because of that, we knew we'd be able to modify the theme to meet their accessibility guidelines. So we created a two-phase approach. The first phase, being a short development cycle, would modify the existing theme based on their upgraded spec for what the new design was supposed to look like. We'd make the code changes necessary. We brought in a QA team to do the testing to confirm that the application did indeed meet the new spec and that we didn't break anything in the process. We were able to develop that new theme and deliver it to them in time to meet their customer demands. Then we started phase 2. Phase 2 was a more extensive set of work where we did a complete application upgrade to EXT 7.5. So not only did we solve the customer's immediate problem, but we gave them a roadmap to ensure that their application will be viable for many more years to come.
Jason, that was wonderful. So this is a good example where the customer leveraged the expertise of a pool of talent that understands the capability of the framework itself and figure out a faster way to achieve something which is needed, shorter response time. So I'm sure their end customer would have been elated by it, and also has the capability to do a massive, large application upgrade. Maybe moving forward, let's try and understand what the engagement process for the current engagement process that we are suggesting would be for somebody who wants to engage with for this advisory service.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think the main core of creating this advisory was we want to just make it really simple for people to engage with us, right? And I keep saying one click of a button, and that's absolutely true. So if you go to the Sencha website today, sencha.com/advisory, you'll see a page where you'll get access to 3 different buckets. And the buckets are pretty self-explanatory, very straightforward. They have basic, pro, and enterprise, and they differ by the number of hours that each one has, right? So they go from 35 to 60 to 100. And the beauty of this is we are not restricting any services for any of these buckets. So whichever bucket you choose or whichever form of engagement you feel you need, we, Celestial, will give you the full gambit, the full spectrum of all our Sencha expertise to you, so that you can figure out where you need the most help, jointly with us, and we will be able to provide that to you in a very short time.
So the question that I have, right out looking at it is if I don't have a clear definition of my problem, what bucket should I be considering exploring, and do I have to consume everything? How does this thing really work?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point, Sachin. So if you don't have a clear idea of what problem you're trying to solve, then I would suggest going with some of the smaller buckets like a basic or a pro. That way, it gives you a little bit of it provides you an avenue to get your feet wet, and then maybe we can spend some initial time doing some more exploratory sessions, figuring out what you're trying to accomplish, right? Maybe we don't need to talk about the problems, but we can talk about your goals. Where do you see the application in 6 months, 12 months, or what you're trying to achieve? And then we'll be able to jointly with you identify some areas that can be improved upon, and maybe come up with a plan on working those together. And it's very simple. If you do run out of hours, you can quickly refill or restock at any point in time. So that process is very, very simple. And from our perspective, we want to make it very easy to work with you. So we don't have any set of restrictions on how many hours you need to use at a time, or we say, okay, well, you have to talk to us for a minimum 10 hours a week or anything like that. No, we don't want to make things harder. We want to make things easier. So initially, whatever sort of engagement we decide, whatever the customer is comfortable with, we'll go with that. And it's all in the name of providing some support, some solution. We're going to be there whenever you need help, and you can sort of tap us as you feel best. Okay, so now let us actually walk you through what a typical engagement might look like.
Okay, Raul, I'll take a minute to talk about the engagement process. So as soon as Sencha notifies us that a new customer has signed up for the services package, we will reach out to them to schedule a kickoff call. One of our project coordinators, who will be located in your time zone, will be able to will reach out to you, schedule the call. When we get on the call, we'll have not only the project coordinator will be there, but one of our architects. We'll go through a series of questions to talk to you about what immediate concerns you might have, issues you're facing, or just any maybe medium or long-term problems you might be concerned about, and we'll talk about how we could potentially help you through this engagement process.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point as well. It's from our perspective and our client's perspective, it's very important that we identify exactly what they're trying to accomplish, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a relatively small number of hours that we're engaging in. So time is of high value. So we certainly want to align ourselves with our clients to ensure that we're focusing on the most high priority things, so that we can show our value and what we truly believe as Celestial, the value that we can bring to our customers. We have a finite amount of time to show that in. So I think that process, like you said, it's very important that the initial kickoff discovery call is extremely important, because we need to know, we only have a set number of time to show our value, which we hope to further along in the future. But given this current engagement, I believe that initial kickoff meeting, getting on the same page, is very important, so that we know what to focus on. What are the real pain points? Why did you, Mr. Customer, actually sign up for the advisory, right? So yeah, please continue.
Yeah, and absolutely and that's the importance of having one of our architects on that initial kickoff call, is that they can really understand very quickly what the particular issues might be that the customer is talking to us about, and whether it's feasible or realistic to there's something we can accomplish in the amount of time that we have. We're not going to try to upgrade an entire application inside of a 35-hour bundle. That's not a realistic goal that we could achieve. But we might be able to help you come up with a plan, to create the plan to do that application upgrade, and maybe perhaps one of the larger bundles. And so it is. We'll definitely have our technical resources on the call from the beginning to make sure that you can that we're being as efficient as possible and give you as much value as possible out of the hours that you've purchased. And once we've gone through that initial discovery and kickoff, we'll typically assign one architect that'll be your single technical point of contact, in addition to that project coordinator, who will have that knowledge of your application, so that when you come back with either new issues or or as we're executing through the initial block of hours, they will have that continuity and understanding. So we're not wasting time reallocate doing knowledge transfer, or getting people to back up to speed on your application.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And I think one of the things that I feel is an important point for many of our customers is that we can be very flexible as well. And by what I mean by that is, depending on what customer timelines or the situation may be, perhaps it warrants more than one resource to be deployed to get something accomplished in a set time interval. I think, Jason, you would agree that we would be flexible to do that as well, right? Again, just going back to that main point of really establishing what the customer is trying to do and what their highest pain points are, and what timeline they're trying to accomplish. And I think we can scale accordingly. We have enough resources within our organization worldwide that know Sencha very well, They know the EXTJS framework very well, so we feel very comfortable in that environment. Now, Jason, one question I would like to ask for you, and I think this is for the audience knowledge as well. Given you can call these short sprints or short engagements where our teams parachuting in and really coming into a new application. How much do you think they would need to know the business application of the customer versus their core expertise of EXTJS framework? So by what I'm really trying to ask you is, in your experience in the past, all the engagements that you've done and overseen, it is core knowledge of the EXTJS framework more important in some cases than the actual knowledge of the business application? Maybe you can help us understand that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that in the case of all of our architects, every single one or almost every single one of them was an engineer at Sencha, and so we've all either on the professional services side or in the core engineering team. So everyone that's that we would bring on to one of these engagements has a very deep understanding of XJS. In some cases, some of these guys have been using and building applications with XJS since the EXT 2.0 days, and all the way up through the latest and greatest. So in our case, we'd always be bringing that XJS expertise and kind of having that deep knowledge. And most of these guys have built pretty sizable XJS applications, both at their time at Sencha and then now with their time with us at Celestial. And so you'll get they get up to the time, the bang for your buck, I guess is the right way to say it. You'll get for each individual hour is pretty significant. You're not going, these guys typically don't require a significant amount of ramp up time. Because they've seen a lot of things.
Fantastic. Okay, great. I think, for maybe just to help our audience understand the engagement process a little bit better, can you perhaps use an example of, the highest probability of a company coming to us from to the Sencha advisory? What would be the most likely use case that they would come to us with? Maybe we can walk through an example together, just so that all our audience can really grasp what we're talking about.
Right. A really good use case, I think, would be around a critical performance bug. So let's say you've got an application that's running. Most Sencha applications these days are heavily dependent on, let's say, the grid. And the application had been working pretty well, but now that the data sets that you're dealing with have grown significantly as your company's gotten larger, now your grids are really starting to bog down as you're getting up into the hundreds of thousands of records or something like that. So those problems can be fairly tricky to solve. And that's one of the common things people come to us with. And so a good use, especially possibly even for one of the smaller packages, would be to say, okay, I've got this problem. My grid is all my customers are complaining because the grid's taking multiple seconds to load, and especially as it's bogging down as they scroll. So maybe that's a pretty common scenario. So our team can in a few hours, let's say maybe in a 10 or 15 hour engagement, would be able to get access to your systems. You could send us pieces of your source code, either an isolated test case, ideally an isolated test case, but or if you can quickly and easily give us access to your source code, depending on the access security requirements of your organization, you might be able to get us into your systems. We can take a look at the source code. We can provide best practices or do some performance profiling. The solution might be fairly straightforward for us, to come up with a fix. Maybe it's correctly using the buffered store, or maybe you're overfetching or underfetching some data. Pagination levels weren't set up correctly. There's a whole ton of issues that we could go through that would be fairly simple to that would be realistically isolatable in a handful of hours. And so that's not something where we'd need to understand all the, like you were talking about in the last question. We would need to understand all the business, we would need to understand the business logic inside of your application to be able to help you fix that problem. And we should be, we'd be able to come in fairly quickly and get you some more performant code.
Great. I think, overall from our perspective, the whole process, we want to keep it very transparent. Our clients will have direct contact with the project coordinator. They'll know the resources that are working on it, the architects that are working on it. We will establish a cadence for communication, for reporting, to whatever our client desires, right? I mean, that's what we pride ourselves on. We're very flexible. We can work with the smallest of organizations all the way up to the Fortune 100s and everything in between. And we can scale this engagement process to all of them. But at its very core, I feel like it generally stays the same. It's really getting to the meat and potatoes and figuring out what the customer's biggest pain points are, and going out and putting your best guys on it to address the problem. And that's generally what.
I'd like to add on to that. Your point about transparency is the way we'll engage with this is, let's say that go back to that bug fixing example. We might not know exactly how many hours it's going to take before we start. Some cases we might, but in every case, we'll come to an agreement between the customer, the architect, and the project coordinator that will time box the exploration. And so let's say we'll guess that we'll allocate 10 hours out of our, let's say, 35-hour package or 100-hour package to do the initial exploration and kind of collect the data, or kind of get as far as we can in terms of our exploration. And we might be able to solve it in less than 10 hours, but maybe we can't. And so at most, you'll agree in advance. In every case, we'll agree how many hours we're going to spend on any particular activity, and we're never going to just use up all of your hours without without explicit agreement on how we're going to use those hours. So I think that back to that point of the bug fixing, we'll be able to take the time that we'll only use the time that we've agreed to, and never anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I'm sure that's is probably a very valid concern, because even if customers sign up for the 35-hour package, every hour is very valuable. So we, at least from our perspective, will make sure that we use everything efficiently. Everything is done with proper consent and agreement. And everything that we do, of course, will be well documented by the project coordinators and the respective team members from our client side.
Yeah, and I think at the end, after we've successfully delivered, some number of bug fixes, or maybe some architectural guidance or code review guidance, we'll provide reports, whatever the artifacts, maybe the source code that we generated, or the documents that we generated, or maybe if we're helping you. Oh, another area that we could, that just reminded me, another area we could talk about is the upgrade advisor. So often our customers are coming to us to talk about upgrading their XJS versions. Well, we've built a tool. One of these architects I keep talking about, or actually a couple of these architects I keep talking about, built this tool called the Upgrade Advisor, and that's an application that you can run on your XJS source code, and it spits out a whole bunch of reporting data on all of the things that will go wrong when you upgrade your application. So whether that's overrides that are now deprecated, or private functions that you might be using, or there's a whole list of things. But the output of that data can sometimes be difficult to interpret or understand, and so it's one of the tools that we use as part of our full scale code reviews. And it's something that we might be able to run for you as part of maybe a smaller service package where we can give you a much better understanding, a much better lower cost understanding of how much work's going to be involved with your eventual EXT application upgrade.
I think this was wonderful, and to understand that what advisory services is offering is the expertise, the process, we understand realistically how the engagement works because no two customers are ever similar. So we are flexible enough in terms of how we will engage with a particular requirement. We have additional tools based on past experience that can help do this work faster for us, so we don't have to kind of spend additional hours or that has been done over the past can be reused. So this is all what I get from this discussion, and thank you so much. I think this gives a lot more clarity of how and why this advisory services would be practical. Yes. So we now understand the process. We now understand the what the Sencha service is, who is useful for. And we understand the we have looked at the case study. We have looked at the engagement process in detail. So the only thing that we kind of give our listener today is this is not something we have been doing. This is something that we have been doing for some time now. And Sencha is definitely a leader in the enterprise web app space, and most Fortune 100 company are have applications using Sencha, and as far as Celestial is concerned, we kind of have been working very closely with Sencha, have the right tool set, skill set, environment, process. We are an ISO certified company, and a very proud customer base where we frequently engage on this niche that we have created for ourselves. Anal, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, thanks, Sachin. So I agree. I agree with everything that you've said. I've personally been involved with Sencha maybe 6 or 7 years, and of course, gentlemen like Jason have been driving the initiative way long before me. But one thing that I have personally learned, throughout the course of my engagement over the several years, is Sencha or XJS framework as a technology, or Sencha technology is here to stay. That is one thing for sure that I have learned. I have heard it from customers. They have no plans of migrating from the technology. They're planning to maintain them, upgrade them for many, many years to come. Certainly, and these are very large mission critical apps, which are of course very difficult to move anyways. But that to me is a very, very positive sign. There are many companies out there, I'm sure some are in our audience today, that are in need of such services. And we're fortunate enough to work with these companies every day, some of the largest companies in the world. And as an organization, we've also grown. We have 300 plus engineers in our company, and we have 50 plus XJS experts in our organization all throughout the world. We have some of the best thought leadership from Sencha actually working with us currently. And as I've mentioned earlier in the webinar, that Celestial is actually a development partner of Sencha. So the new versions and the new tools of Sencha, like Jason was talking about Upgrade Advisor, and we are talking about the new version of Sencha, Celestial actually helps in developing those. So our knowledge of the Sencha framework, of the XJS framework, is so deep rooted that I truly feel that we are best suited to solve any problem that any customer may have, because I really truly believe that if we cannot solve the problem that the customers have, then maybe I'm not being modest by saying this, but it's probably not solvable, because we do have that entire brain trust in our company today. And like I said, the future for Sencha is growing, and by no means is it diminishing. We hear that from our clients every day. Their applications are going to be here for decades to come, and we'll be here to service many customer needs as what we're doing, and we look forward to continue supporting many more. And hopefully through this Sencha Advisory Initiative, we'll make that process a little bit easier, and we'll make engaging with us and us engaging with our customers, make that process a little bit easier. And that's the whole idea behind doing all of this, just to make that connection a little bit easier to our clients and make us more approachable, make us more easy to talk to, etc. So I think that's it from my side. And I'll pass it over to Jason to see if he has any final thoughts or comments.
Yeah, Raul, I will echo your sentiment about Sencha being around for many years to come. So many of the applications that we work on have been in use in production for more than a decade. And most of the companies that we're talking to and that are investing in upgrading their applications have another 10 years that they plan on getting out of these applications before they consider doing any other major overhauls. And so that's some of the level of security that we've brought to these customers is we've helped re-architect their code, these decade-old code bases. Some of them would could get a driver's license, given how old they are. And so we spend a fair amount of time with these customers, work with them, provide them a lot of very valuable guidance, and make sure that they have their code bases is ready to take on the next decade. And so that's what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. These are mission critical applications, and we definitely plan on helping make sure that they stay running for as long as they need to be.
Fantastic.
Yeah, with that, I think we come to an end to this discussion. We do have a dedicated page set up on the Sencha site. I encourage everybody to visit it. There is a contact us link available on that page for any doubts, any additional questions that you have for on the advisory or in general about the Sencha framework itself, or anything that you think that this team can help you with. Feel free to drop your inquiries. And we do have some time left in the session. Maybe we can take a few questions moving forward. But thank you, Jason. Thank you, Raul, for going through this advisory. I think we have tried to explain the as much as was possible the engagement process, the scope, and hopefully it makes sense for our customers to consider engaging us when they are facing an issue with their existing application, or they're planning to extend or any activity for where they feel that there is a pool of experts can help and assist them.